If someone's listening thinking, okay, what is my chances? Is it a 1 in 10 chance I'm going to get dementia? Is it a 1 in what chance am I going to get Parkinson's? Can we sort of put some perspective around this, around the likelihood that someone's going to experience some of these sort of more common neurodegenerative diseases?
The average person, this is not a person that lives a particularly healthy lifestyle, but the average person, 1 in 9 individuals over the age of 65 develop dementia and Alzheimer's type. And then after the age of 85, 50%, 47, but 50% develop dementia, and most likely Alzheimer's type dementia. And it's very prevalent, very common, and it's becoming more common for 2 reasons. One is we are living longer, although not in U.S. Our age actually dropped from 80 to 78 to now 76, going towards that. But the other reason is we're surviving other diseases, from cardiovascular disease and cancers and HIV and other things. So we're living to the point where we're more at risk of developing these diseases. And the third factor is we're living less healthy. We believe that, and there's data, it's not a matter of belief, that lifestyle is a big contributor of this. We think as much as 80% of this is lifestyle related. And it has to do with food we eat, with the way we interact, how much we move, the stress levels in our lives, lack of sleep or proper sleep, and then mental activity. These are the factors, and alcohol and cigarette smoking are other factors, especially alcohol. Cigarette, it's been reduced globally, but alcohol is a big factor. Those are the contributors and reversible contributors to risk of dementia.
And I think it's important for the audience to know, and this might just be a refresher because we've talked about this in the past, the proportion of people who tend to have a genetically driven disease is much less than those who have a lifestyle driven disease, especially when it comes to Alzheimer's disease. It's not even, it's not 50-50. If somebody has the genes or the type of Alzheimer's disease that is purely genetically driven, it's between 3 to 5% only. The rest of it is all lifestyle.
Those are the genes that typically would drive early onset Alzheimer's?
That's correct.
That's
exactly.
correct. So
which
those
is the
are the
presenilin.
Presenilin 1, presenilin 2, and amyloid precursor protein, or APP. And that happens to a very, very small population. So
I think some people may confuse that with ApoE4, which probably gets a little bit more airtime. So what happens to someone's risk if they have 1 copy of ApoE4 or 2 copies of?
So if you have 1 copy of ApoE4, your risk goes up as much as 3 to 4 times. If you have 2 copies, your risk goes up as much as 10 to 12 times. But does that mean that people who have ApoE4 alleles, which is about 2% of the population in the United States, they all get dementia? No, 50% never develop dementia, and it's related to lifestyle. As the data shows that it's related to lifestyle. The Nigerian study actually showed this, and other studies have shown this. And then mechanistically, although we kind of push back on mechanistic explanation of things, it's a good thing to have. But what is the function of ApoE4? ApoE4 is one of its functions. It's not the only function. People simplify it. One of its is lipid transport, fat transport.
Right. It's the ApoB equivalent in the
Correct.
brain.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yes.
Exactly. And we know what it does in the brain. When it's in the brain, it doesn't do its job well. And our relationship with lipids, especially LDL, matter because of one of the reasons ApoE4. So even the second highest penetrant genes, and I'll explain what penetrance means. If a gene is 100% penetrant, it means it's going to manifest in our life at a particular time. For example, the Huntington's gene. It's on chromosome 4, and it's a sad disease, and it's repeats of CAG codon. And if there's a certain number of them, it's almost guaranteed that this parent had it, their child now has it. We know at what age they're going to develop Huntington's disease. Usually it's in the 30s or so. With Alzheimer's, it's just that 3 to 5%. The rest are not 100% penetrance. It's much lower. Even ApoE4, which is a higher penetrance, 12 times greater risk, people who live a certain kind of life have much lower risk of developing Alzheimer's. And then the rest of the consortium of genes related to Alzheimer's, which we now know to be now in the 40 or so genes, are, again, lifestyle related. Genes that deal with how we get rid of waste, Very common. Genes that have to do with our response to inflammatory response. If they're bad genes, which means we don't have a good, proper inflammatory response, more likely to get dementias and other diseases. So again, we can see that genes here have to do with lifestyle, a great majority of them.
Is there anything someone can do if they have those mutations to presenilin 1, presenilin 2, and are in that sort of, I think you said 3 to 5% of category? Are they just ultimately, they're destined to get dementia, or can they, even in that circumstance, modify their lifestyle in a way that...
That's a really good question.
Very good question. So we did a study. We looked at the data. We didn't do the study. We looked at the data. We need to publish that.
Yes.
And with an amazing 16-year-old kid that ended up in Stanford, brilliant young man. We looked at who has APP. Well, it's on chromosome 21.
Amyloid precursor.
Yeah. So who has excessive APP are people who have triple chromosome 21, which are Down syndrome, right? So people with Down syndrome, if they live past the age of 40, 50, it's almost a foregone conclusion they will develop dementia and Alzheimer's. And it's because of excessive APP. And we looked at that data, and what we saw was the main problems that usually Down syndrome individuals have is blood pressure, cholesterol, all of that stuff. When those things were better managed, guess what? They developed the disease later on. So even in the high penetrant genes like APP in Down syndrome, lifestyle had an influence on pushing the disease back. So that gives you a clue that even in those cases, lifestyle is a big factor.
It's almost as if you were given poor tools to maintain a healthier brain. It's like you're not given the right kind of a janitorial system for your brain. You're not given the right kind of a system to get rid of oxidative stress. You're not given the right kind of system to fight against inflammation. And so if you work hard enough not to create that inflammatory response, not to create that oxidative stress, and not to create those glucose metabolism disorders and fat metabolism disorders, you can definitely push the disease further.